Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. Across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. First show of 2026, Charlie. Are you excited?
I couldn't be more excited. Can't you tell?
You just can't be. And it happens to be a Dumb Bleep of the Week, which is our most popular show.
Perfect.
It's just the whole our
You took
whole
yesterday
podcast
off to pursue your resolutions. Didn't you?
I did.
And what was the number one thing? Do less.
Yes. Do less. Take some time for myself. So my wife was out of town yesterday, and so I took the opportunity to do absolutely nothing, even though I had a long list of things I was going to do to be super productive. And I ended up just watching 2.5 seasons of Homeland on Netflix. So, it's fairly productive. That's a lot of episodes. So, I got up early yesterday. I turned it on. I watched till about midnight last night. And what I didn't do was, now this could be a shock to you, Charlie. I didn't spend a lot of time prepping Dumb Bleep of the Week, which was something I was definitely going to do. And so this is actually the least organized episode so far this year that we've had for Dumb Bleep of the Week. And in fact, we've only got 5 or 6 options, even though there were tons of good options. There are tons of stuff, and it doesn't mean I don't care about them. I've actually saved them in my little slide stack here to bring up for next week. I've already brought them in and then pushed them out of the episode because I got to go pick up my wife because she's on her way back right now. And so we got 6 things that we're going to talk about. I didn't even take the time this morning to put the options in the voting channel. You're going to have to remember to do that for me, Charlie. Here is Dumb Bleep number 1. I don't know if you've seen this one yet, Chuck. Well, there's stuff going on in Iran right now. There's been protests happening in Iran. The people are upset. They're upset about the cost of living. A lot of inflation going on. You know, our Fed even ruins that country. And the people are upset. They are protesting. They are wreaking havoc. And, what do you do when a country is going through its own internal turmoil and people in your country are talking about waste, fraud, and abuse and actually starting to talk about programs that need to be cut and stuff like that?
We go to war.
You got to do a war. That's what you got to do. Or at least you have to insert yourself into the situation, which is really what I think is the dumb of Dumb Bleep number 1. Iran's dealing with protests, and yes, I know I thought USAID was gone too, but they're dealing with protests there in Iran. They could have, let's say the regime fell, something like that. That could happen. Sure. They could decide to be violent with the protesters, which would in turn make a lot of people really mad. If that happened, could create even more problems for the country. But what I wouldn't want to do is insert myself into the situation and give them another outside boogeyman to blame for what's actually happening, or kind of remind them that there's an outside person that, even could be to blame for some of the problems that are going on. But Trump decides he wants to post about Iran. And
also, the United States will come to their rescue. Since when did you ask them if they want us to come to their rescue?
Let me read the post real quick.
Okay. Sorry.
So this is Trump posting out on Truth Social today. This technically, it was 2 a.m. this morning. I think BB just left his house, and so he posts out: if Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom. Who are we to decide what their custom should or shouldn't be? No. Which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And you were saying, Charlie.
Did we ask the Iranians if they wanted the United States to come to their rescue when they're protesting in their own country? No. A lot of Iranians might be angry at the United States for installing the current government that's there to begin with.
They could disagree with us deciding to get involved. And in fact, if we decided to come in and fight their regime, the very people who are protesting against their regime right now, assuming they don't just work for USAID or the CIA, those very same people could decide that there's someone they hate even more than their regime, which is America. It's just a stupid plan all around, in my opinion.
I see what's happening. It's the CIA people who are protesting, which are Americans. Yeah. So if Iran shoots and kills Americans,
we're protecting Americans.
We're locked and loaded and ready to defend.
That's why it's important to protect the
Americans
protesters
that are there
our
protesting.
Interests. Yeah. We spent a lot of money on this protest.
It makes total sense now.
I'm sorry. It could be a very legitimate protest that has nothing to do with anything that we've ever done.
Peaceful president that we've had in history. He's ended 27 wars.
Well, it's 28 now. He's trying to be peaceful. This is peace. Peace through strength. You know, that's what's happening. I mean, really, if they decide if the regime kills some protesters, which they do because they're a terrible, awful regime that all of us should hate, absolutely. Sure, if they do that and then we don't come to their rescue, then that's going to make you look kind of weak. So I don't really like this. What business is it of ours to come protect the people of Iran from their own government? And
we got to protect democracy.
Can you imagine if another government posted this out on Truth Social saying if the ICE protests turn violent and ICE uses violence against some of the protesters in LA, then we're locked and loaded and ready to go. We're going to come protect.
Iran's going to send in their F-16s.
We're going to come protect those people from their evil government. Yeah. Like, no, that's our business, dude. Leave it alone.
Do we even know if these protesters have a permit?
That could be the issue too.
Yeah,
we didn't think about whether or not they have a permit.
Check to see if they have a permit first, because you need one of those.
Because if they're not permitted, then it's like the government can just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Another thing that got posted out a few days ago, Iran could soon be capable of targeting U.S. cities with nuclear weapons, Netanyahu warns. So Netanyahu came and hung out with Trump over the holy days.
Did he?
And this is a national security risk for them to hang out together for more than a couple hours at a time, honestly. And yeah, we do just have to point out, I don't even have to play this video. You guys already know how long I've been warning of these nuclear weapons. And I was told on good authority, powerful authority, probably the most powerful authority that there's ever been, that their nuclear program was obliterated.
Completely demolished.
We won that war. And everyone who said, see, it didn't turn into a war.
It was the most perfect.
And so you guys are just freaking out about nothing.
Military operation that's ever existed on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm. And they were female pilots.
With precision striking.
Mm-hmm. Very, very important stuff.
Even peeing in tubes because they couldn't, they were in the aircraft for so long.
I know. I thought it was only Amazon drivers who had to do that.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep this now Israel oriented. We got a little bit of a woke right post this morning from Mark Levin. And I used to listen to him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Used to listen to him a lot. He's going back and forth with Dave Smith right now. Failed comedian, unknown comedian Dave Smith.
He's probably getting 70 grand for every reply.
Has he 10x'd it somehow?
Yeah.
Man.
It's Mark Levin.
Yeah, that's true. So they're going back and forth. And every time Mark Levin talks about Dave Smith, calls him like unknown comedian or whatever. And he always puts like in parentheses, who? Never heard of him, although he's posted about him a whole bunch of times. So clearly he knows who he is because he has posted about him and addressed him many times. And Mark Levin had this response to Dave Smith today that just reminds me so much of our conversation about the woke right the other day, because he decides to tell Dave Smith, he says to Dave Smith, you're a neo-Nazi, a washed up joke with a negative IQ. As for age, you're a young, arrogant punk who has contributed nothing to society but hate, bigotry, and anti-Semitism. In fact, but for hundreds of millions of us boomers, you wouldn't have toilet paper to wipe your ass.
And it turns out Dave Smith uses a bidet anyway.
Yeah,
so
he doesn't need it. He doesn't need toilet paper.
Said, take your boomer paper.
Okay, boomer paper. What are you
shove
talking
it up
about?
your own ass.
What? I'm not sure what he's talking about with the toilet paper thing. I'd have to get a look at the average age of people who work at toilet paper factories.
When was toilet paper invented?
I'm not really sure where he's going with the toilet paper reference right now. But the first part of this...
It was first commercially sold in 1857.
Oh.
So is that boomer?
Boomers are getting old, yeah. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. Yeah, so the woke right part. So we've all, probably everyone listening to us right now is listening to Dave Smith on occasion. I don't listen a lot, but I've listened to many a Dave Smith episodes. I've seen a bunch of his interviews on other places, and what he does quite a lot is criticize the government of Israel and criticizes U.S. foreign policy. And that has turned into, of course, over time, which has been super not helpful to the cause. Anyone who cares about the Israeli cause or the Jewish cause or whatever it is that you care about, turning around and calling people who criticize the government anti-Semitic is something that the woke left people would do by calling everyone racist all the time. And it did not work. And this is why I've always thought that these people are way more like the wokes, because if you criticize something, they'll just essentially call you a racist for criticizing.
Just call you a name.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with whether or not the people who are in Israel are even Jewish or not.
You've won.
Yeah.
So like if you're in an argument with anyone and they just resort to name calling, like you've won the argument because they have nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, something way more interesting. I just did a quick deep dive on the history of toilet paper. So if you want to talk about something meaningful, we could educate people on where toilet paper came from.
Yeah.
And that might be more entertaining than reading what Mark Levin has to say.
That does sound a lot more entertaining.
I found this interesting real quick. Before toilet paper was invented.
I wish we could put your screen up on the screen. We haven't developed the technology yet.
A wide variety of materials, including rags, paper, corn cobs, and animal fur to clean themselves. And in ancient Rome, public restrooms used a shared sponge on a stick. I'm glad we're past that.
Wow.
Everybody thinks Rome was a great society, but imagine sharing a poop stick. Hey, you about done with that sponge? Pass it on over here.
Pass the poop stick. That's what they had Southern accents for sure too.
This one's a tin wiper.
I like how immediately the Romans switched to like a Tennessee.
By the way, the first toilet paper, though, I found this interesting, was invented by Joseph Gayetti, and he introduced Gayetti's medicated paper. It was flat sheets with his name
cocaine
on it.
On it? Oh, okay.
Just his name on it with aloe.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were considered medicated sheets. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting. If you wanted to take a little sidestep from Mark Levin.
That is way better than talking about Mark Levin. Yeah. How many
I bet Mark Levin still uses the shared sponge.
How many ply was the paper? Does it say in there?
It doesn't.
Oh, no. Man. How many double rolls did you get in the triple roll container at that time? And how many single rolls did that equal?
I don't know. I just know that in 1883, Seth Wheeler was the first to patent the perforated toilet paper roll that we still use today.
Okay.
So that was nice of him.
All right. That's good.
For that. But Mark Levin still uses a shared sponge that's coming in from a source, an anonymous source.
Mm-hmm. He hasn't caught up with the times yet.
So that's why he still tweets things like this.
Yeah. He also posted out earlier today, which I didn't even bring in the tweet, about how great it will be if the Iranian regime falls and is replaced by a Western-friendly government and all of that, and all the great things that would flow down from that.
Just like in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and Somalia.
You're left like reading the tweet. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That would be great if that happened, probably. But I wanted to just say, or what else could it be that happens? You know, what's the other thing that could happen in this scenario? It could be a complete disaster, and millions of people could suffer as a result. And it turns out they got a way bigger population. I was talking to Ted Cruz earlier about how many people live in Iran. It turns out the population's way bigger than some of the other countries that we failed to overthrow, and that could be a problem too. When I see a bunch of people protesting there, I'm like, all right, well, let's see if they get the job done. Yeah. You know? We don't have to insert ourselves into this situation. Whatever. Okay. This is a transition to number 2. because it shares some of the woke rightness with the Nick Shirley Minnesota fraud scandal.
Can I say one more thing about toilet paper?
I will.
Real quick. He wanted us to thank the boomers. But if I remember correctly, it's the boomers were the ones who bought all the toilet paper during COVID.
Exactly.
Like, what are we supposed to thank the boomers for? They stole the toilet paper.
Caused the supply shortages of toilet paper.
I remember going
They're hoarding.
I think I went to Costco at one point to try to find some toilet paper. And I just saw carts of old people filled up with toilet paper.
Carts of old people.
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. So what are we supposed to thank boomers for toilet paper for? Yeah, dumb bleep number 1 is toilet paper. Boomers and toilet paper.
Boomers and toilet paper, Mark Levin. This is a transition to number 2, which is going to be a lot of things about the Minnesota fraud scandal. But this is Misfit Patriot. First dumb bleep of the year. Here he is already making himself known. Now, he says, many of you aren't going to want to hear this, but please don't go all in on Nick Shirley. Now, I actually tend to agree with him a little bit on this. Just see that first sentence. You shouldn't just go all in on this random journalist.
Unless Nick Shirley is for murdering Palestinian babies, then we should support him.
He identifies how you know, or how you would know, because he doesn't know yet. He identifies how you would know that you can't trust Nick Shirley. Okay. Says he did a great job on a story and exposed something our government clearly knew about but wasn't going to address without his reporting. That being said, he's already milking this harder than the Haktua girl, and you people need to start recognizing the pattern. If I found a cure for cancer tomorrow, my first order of business wouldn't be to have hoodies made. Well, you make money off the cure for cancer, though. You wouldn't need to make the hoodies. Your first order of business would be replicating the cure for cancer. He is a kid who did a good thing by accident for all the wrong reasons. I hope I'm wrong. In fact, I dare him to prove me wrong. But if I see him on Tucker Carlson in the next couple weeks, we know I'm right. And that's how you know that you can't trust this Nick Shirley character, is whether or not he goes on Tucker Carlson to talk about this Minnesota fraud scandal.
He talks to a guy like Tucker. Can't associate with
That's
him.
how you know is that, because he could develop a bunch of support, get a lot of reposts, a lot of views, stuff like that. But what happens if somehow he agrees with some form of criticism of the government of Israel? That could be dangerous. So you got to, before you support work that someone's doing, you need to figure out whether or not, like, what their stance is on our foreign policy is the really important part there. Okay, so now we're on the Minnesota fraud scandal. I'm going to start off with a post from Destiny. We're just bringing in some of these.
Is this guy still relevant?
I haven't seen much from him in a while. I don't know what he's been up to.
A lot of followers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean he's technically more relevant than we are, But as far as relevance in the conversation in relation to where he used to be, it doesn't seem like it's a lot right now.
What an ironic post.
Yeah, and this is in response to CBS Evening News. This guy did this monologue about trust in media and how he's going to make sure he's telling you the truth, even if it's bad for CBS or if it's bad for the powers that be or whoever the case may be. And Destiny responds and says, this country will only begin to recover once we toss this stupid notion that the everyman can do journalism and we go back to having actual experts and qualified individuals leading the discourse.
Then what are you doing, Destiny?
Well, this isn't journalism. This is commentary.
What has he been doing for years?
Commentating on things that other people are doing.
Oh, okay.
This idea, we had this conversation doing the Douglas Murray thing for Dumb Bleep of the Year. This expert class, these credentialized journalists have done a really terrible job for quite a long time. Almost forever. They've done a pretty bad job.
There actually used to be some really good journalists.
Yeah, well,
and by the way, the most recent really good journalists are all ashamed and canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, Seymour Hersh. Ever heard of that guy?
Yeah, I heard of him.
Uncovered
I think there was a documentary or something just came out about him.
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it
watch
yet,
that sometime. Yeah, so this.
By the way, the Fed Hairs Club is still talking about dude wipes and stuff. So if you want to join in on that conversation, join gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. I'm a fan.
Real important stuff.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Anytime I go in there and I see wipes other than toilet paper, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, in my opinion. That's just my humble opinion. Okay, so that's dumb. CBS, at the same time, I was going to play the video of the, let me play the video from the CBS guy just so you get a feel for the truthness that's about to happen.
To your point, though, real quick, I would say we've had this conversation many times, but I just want to reiterate to all of you folks out there that anytime something is exposed, this whole trust the expert class rhetoric is not going to work with most Americans because information is too much at people's fingertips. Mm-hmm. And so they try to rein this thing in. And I think there are times you should consider an expert's opinion about something, but weigh that out with what you know to be true. Mm-hmm. And this whole, it doesn't matter who they get to grift about it, it's not going to work. And it's the same old story. COVID exposed way too many things, which I think was kind of a good thing for America, for a lot of people to see all of the just insane things that happened. And now when you have folks like Destiny or, Murray or James Lindsay, whatever his name is, Ben Shapiro, all these folks trying to talk about trusting the experts and how these commentators don't know anything. You can see for your own eyes, like what is truth and what is not. And that's ultimately a good thing for people in general.
Well, what I think people need to focus on, and I hope they do, although I've seen some instances in this Minnesota thing where that's probably not going to happen, we should all take on the responsibility of figuring out whether or not someone's lying to us or being selective in what they're showing us. If you see holes in some kind of reporting about something, or if you see it being sensationalized or being taken to a way hyperbolic extent, things like that, we should have the responsibility to figure that out. I didn't go as nuts about the Minnesota fraud thing as some people on the right have taken it, because in watching the video, I did recognize that there was not irrefutable proof of all of the things that were being claimed in the video. Now, I lean towards all those things being true, or most of the things being true, because that's the nature of government, and that's the nature of them stealing money from one person and trying to spend it on something else. And so if you were a betting man, you'd probably be able to bet that waste and fraud is happening in that program. But, I will admit that I didn't see like irrefutable evidence of that thing taking place. You can't take a 15-second video of a location as proof of anything happening. My first thing when I watched the video, don't take this the wrong way, guys. There's fraud happening. A lot of fraud happening. A bunch of those daycares are fraud for sure. The whole program should be shut down, and we were saying that before you were. So the whole thing should be shut down.
We haven't even gotten into the fact that the Department of Defense or Pentagon failed yet another audit. That's just
a Friday.
There's fraud everywhere.
Yeah.
And we talked about the reason why. Once you have a system that operates off of stolen money, it's immoral to begin with. People are going to find a way to get their hands on it.
My first thing when I saw the video is, okay, what day of the week was it that they were there? What time of day was it that they were there? What exactly was going on? Did they talk to the people beforehand and get them riled up? And there's so many ways that if you wanted to, you could lie to people and create a video that's apparently going to get 140 million views or something. Now, that's not what I think happened at all. I think he was there during the day, in the morning, at a time when there should be kids at a daycare. Absolutely. But you all, at the same time, just got to take on that responsibility of not taking something as like gospel truth just because you're biased and believe the things that are being said in that video at the same time.
The best thing you can do is find someone who knows everything and just basically have him follow you around with a video camera and tell you what's going on.
Like David. Because David...
Still don't know his last name.
Don't know his last name.
That guy is pretty anonymous, I guess.
Hassan, the dog... Is this the dog shocker? Pretty sure. He had some stuff to say. I don't know what kind of fraud Somalis and daycares are doing, but I think it's a separate crime to try and storm with a camera into a daycare with kids in it. ? Now, the left did a really good job of just ignoring the possibility of massive, widespread theft of taxpayer dollars happening and decided to go and attack the person that was trying to expose things. To which I say, sure, go for it. That's great. You should just say it's not a big deal and something that people shouldn't worry about. That's going to be great for the elections, as if that's going to matter. But
it's like, anytime, which I'm all for privacy, but anytime like you record a crime or something happening and that person gets caught doing that thing, it's the recording's fault.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Well, on top of that,
not the fact that I did the thing.
On top of that, like
that the recording proves I did.
We saw the video. He did not storm the daycare with any kind of, he calls it a camera crew, or someone else calls it a camera crew. Like, it's very clearly being filmed on like an iPhone with someone. It's not Nick Shirley and it's not David. And they did have security go with them. And so they were probably Shirley, David, couple security people, someone holding the camera. I don't know. There's 5, 6, 7 people there.
That's
I don't know
an
who it is. That's not a storming of a daycare, because they knocked on the door and asked people to come up and asked if his like son Joey could go there, something like that. They didn't. They weren't like fighting with people trying to, they're like holding the door closed and he's like trying to rip the door open and run in there or anything like that. That's not what happened at all. He knocked on the door and asked some questions, which is something like a journalist should do. I guess they prefer if he puts some glasses on and goes on a gay date with one of the Somalis and exposes that later. Turns out there's always someone gay you can go on a date with to expose bad things they're doing.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Let's see. Oh, he says...
with the glasses?
You got to put on glasses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bleak future of all media, vigilante content that can be weaponized for radicalized white and nativist prop. Everyone's going to behave like the fake pedo hunters.
What is he trying to say here?
It's just, it's all fake is essentially what's happening. And you can go around pretending to be a journalist and saying that you're exposing things, and it'll get a lot of views. And I have seen a bunch of people jumping on this. Oh, I'm going to go investigate a daycare center because they saw how many views Nick Shirley got on that video. And so they're like, I'm going to go talk, which is good. I think it could inspire a bunch of people to go find some fraud. And that's a good thing. Can't be upset with that at all. Let's see. Every single major outlet. Oh, this is in response to a bunch of people on the right saying that major news outlets did not cover the fraud story, which is true. By the way, they did cover the previous fraud story that came out a couple weeks before that. The only main stories I've seen from major outlets have been them investigating Nick Shirley. Like that's what I've seen so far. Yeah. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong on that.
They're trying to, is this like AI or is this like real like video footage?
Mm-hmm. Every single major outlet covered the welfare fraud story. What they didn't do is go to random medical plazas, harass the staff working there, and think out loud about how I was harassing someone at Dairy Queen the other day. I went up and asked them for one of their products.
Were you filming it?
I wasn't filming it. That's the problem.
Okay. Yeah, I see.
Harass the staff working there and think out loud about how strange it is that a bunch of healthcare service offices would be in a medical plaza. No, it was weird. Listen, I get it. Let's go medical plaza and you do this. These were like 20 different businesses that do the exact same thing, located in the exact same building. That's weird. It just is weird.
With one person there.
Yeah.
And when you ask to talk to someone, they're like, nope. So what? My question is, what is the business there for? Like, if you can't go in and like get a meeting with somebody, or what? Like, what's it there for? Very strange way to operate a business, if you ask me.
You're not thinking about the systemic racism in our society and how scary it can be to see a white guy coming into your office, though. Charlie, you've lived a privileged life.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow, we're still on number 2, huh? Going to keep going. Just an overview of some stuff that's happened There was apparently a break-in at one of the daycares where some documents were stolen. Now the break-in itself is just weird. Okay, so it was like a break-in, and they broke in and stole documents. Like all the documentation you would have that there are for sure people going to your daycare.
There's kids there.
Some people broke in and stole that, which were apparently buried in the wall, sitting on top of the cinder block. I don't really know what is up with this picture, but this is the picture that's been going around. Can someone? I'll admit, my head's not wrapping around this one very easily. Was there a safe attached to the wall? Is that what's happening right next to the water heater?
Now, interesting, the news covers this.
Yeah.
News is covering the break-ins.
I just don't, I don't know. This picture doesn't show me much about a break-in where your like documentation of the people that go to your business was stored.
Well, Nate, that's how
I've never felt the need to bury that in the wall.
No, that's how they got in, saying. Nate. They got in. They watched Mission Impossible. They found a way to get in through the water heater room.
Yes.
To avoid the lasers, that were.
Yeah.
And the alarms. And they were able to just, get right in there.
Yeah. So this guy says that someone broke in, stole all the documents. We're skipping over some of this. And then there's the weird thing with this quality Leering Center there in Minnesota. Because I don't even have to play all these videos. Here's like your timeline. Nick Shirley goes there. There's no one there. Okay. Next thing that happens is a bunch of people put videos up online saying, well, this place got closed down. Of course there was no one there. Saw a couple big videos. This place is closed down, clearly. Someone from Minnesota Department of Stolen Money Allocation came up and said, well, yeah, this place got shut down. And then like on the same day that's happening, a bunch of these people are just rolling kids into the daycare.
Like 20 kids showed up.
Into the daycare. And then this guy saying, well, yeah, no one was there in the morning. We only do daycare from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., which is just an odd time for your daycare to be open.
It's a night care.
Night care business.
Yeah.
It's super weird. And I don't, I'm gonna have to sort of call BS on this.
They're gonna get the sign fixed
because you have to put all the things together. There are people coming out saying, "No, this is closed. That's why no one was there. This is definitely closed." And then these people are bussing in children into the daycare.
But they received like 1.1 million in funding.
1.9 was their allocation for the previous year. Which, by the way, no one is talking about how much money per child we're potentially paying for these daycare. Do you know how many hours they're going there? Do you know that they're there every single day? Because I know that when you do their license for 99 children and it's $1.9 million, that's just say $19,000 a kid per year, which if you break that down hourly, if they're getting taken care of every business day or whatever, it's not a crazy amount of money. Daycare is expensive. Okay.
That's but still, by the way, that's more than we pay for child for school.
You got to think about
like in Tennessee, I think we pay...
Hardly anyone's talking about the amount per child that's being allocated in these things.
In Tennessee,
it's ridiculous.
We pay $10,000 per child for school. So,
God bless. All right, we gotta get moving here. This guy, who was the senior legal affairs reporter for Politico, said at some point the amateur effort to knock on doors of home daycares intersects with the robust stand your ground laws, which everyone took as is that a suggestion? Is it a warning? Is it a warning to the journalists, or that they should be careful, or is it a warning to the journalists that they ought to be careful? You guys know what I'm talking about. But that's good.
Is this a threat?
Let's get from this, please. Is that a threat? Mm-hmm. Is the question. We got to kind of breeze by because we're still on number 2. God bless. Oh, wow. Now, we're still on number 2, and it's just the Minnesota fraud scandal. Now I'm going to critique some people on the right. Everyone, it's going to be fine. When something like this happens, it's very important that you don't spread a bunch of fake things around the people. Because when you give people on the left or narcissists or whoever it is something real that they can use against you that you did wrong, then you will lose. They will not go off.
Exploit the hell out of it.
Exploit it to no end. And so you have to be careful to not make up a bunch of stuff or just be too hyperbolic or outlandish about all this, Because once you make all of those ridiculous claims, they can then just talk about those claims and the fake news and tell all of their people that this is fake and point to the thing that you did that was fake. And then there's like no conversation happening anymore. Their side.
You lose credibility.
You lose your credibility. It's gone. You're going to lose the fight. This post from Beaver says daycares in Minnesota donated a combined $35 million to political campaigns in the last 2 years. They didn't even try to hide the money trail. And this is a list of those daycares in Minnesota, and it says $35.01 million. But then the problem is, what you see right under it is it says total CCAP funding. Does that say tracked? That's too far away. Oh, it's up here. Tracked. Total CCAP funding tracked. Now, what you see over to the right is that it actually makes no mention of any of that money being donated to political campaigns. So you take something that has a hint of truth, which is that we have seen daycares donate money to political campaigns, and you decide to say, well, it's $35 million and it's each one of these organizations. And it turns out you were actually just lying about it. You know how you know they're lying about it? Because this person on the first post right under this that has 12 million views says, yeah, I'm lying about this. I'm just trying to do the same thing the left does. Elon Musk has reposted it. All kinds of people have reposted it. That Mario, whatever, has reposted it. And he just outright says on the first post, yeah, that's not true. Let's just put it out there because that's what the left does. And so
why?
I can't, I can't understand doing that. This is the first post underneath it. He says, wait, but that's CCAP funding, not political grants. It's misinformation. He says, we don't care. We have just stopped following the rules like everyone else did a long time ago. The gloves are off and you're not going to like what happens next. Cry harder. And that and Elon Musk reposted this out this morning. The thing's sitting at 11.9 million views now, 12,000 reposts. And now you're going to have a bunch of people. I know this is just online. This is just X, whatever. You're going to have a bunch of people that are going out there repeating something that is false to their family members or to other people on X. And they're going to be wrong every single time. And they're going to be a misinformed individual by someone who is lying to them every single time. And it's going to destroy the credibility of any of the arguments. It's almost like this might as well be a left-wing page that posted this out because it's a perfect way to just completely destroy the argument. Yeah, I mean, sure. It could still be true. And I bet a bunch of it has been donated. I'm sure it has.
I'm sure some of it has made its way back into the campaign donations. By the way, you should be able to look those up. You can verify how much of the 35 million went back into the coffers of Democrat politicians.
He says, me, Elon, and Mario just obliterating liberals by doing what they have been doing for years. We want our country back. And you see, I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the people on the left sucked. And
so why are we doing the same thing?
One of the things that sucked about them is that they're liars. And in fact, their entire worldview is based on a lie. But whatever. Polymarket posted this out. It's been revealed Ilhan Omar's net worth grew from negative $45,000 in 2019 to $30 million this year, despite her salary being just $174K a year. And as they well know, she married a guy that is worth literally $30 million. And so that, like, framing something like that, trying to be like, oh, clearly that's where all this fraud's going. Could be the case. There's a bunch of fraud going. In fact, the guy she married that's worth $30 million is a political organizer. It's okay. So sure,
turns out he owns like 50 daycares.
He's the daycare kingpin of Minneapolis.
He cares about children. Also, you have to think, okay, look, people like Ilhan Omar, AOC, those folks, they gain millions of followers on social media. Okay. Mm-hmm. They make money that way. Like you can start making millions of dollars by having millions of followers on social media, even if you're a public servant.
You get book deals, all kinds of stuff.
You get book deals, perks, speech deals. I mean, there's all kinds of things you get when you're a high-profile public servant. Now, that doesn't mean I think that should be the case, but I'm just saying there are ways that you can legitimately make money by being a high-profile public servant. There are also lots of fraudulent ways that they make money too. I'm not discounting that. Is it possible that Ilhan Omar is in on the fraud scheme? Maybe.
Yeah.
Is it possible that she votes for legislation or helps advocate for legislation that allows fraud to help her friends out and maybe herself?
Yep.
Yeah, possibly.
Yep.
Do we know that for sure? No.
I hope we find out.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Just to be safe, like all these things.
But hang on. It would be nice if we found out and also people had consequences.
That'd be good.
Like you had a good post about how we solve this problem. There's another post I saw Elon Musk reposted that somebody said the answer to this problem is we need to have capital punishment, public capital punishment for all these people involved in the scheme. That'd be the only way to fix it. No, how about we just don't allow people... How about we don't allow the government to steal money from people in the first place?
Yeah.
That's how you fix it.
Yeah. How are you going to give capital punishment? How are you going to give the death penalty to someone who stole stolen money? Like, don't you want to go back to the root cause? The root cause was the initial theft of the money. That's what you can't decide that one of those is right. It's just the problem is it didn't get used for the right thing. And so that person should be put to death.
Is there a white pill coming out of this, by the way?
No, I mean, more than likely not.
Is there going to be an actual coordinated effort to not pay taxes?
I see a lot of people talking about that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking about that. There is a white pill in the fact that people are talking about it. There's an annoyance to me that...
Is this a Somali Tea Party?
Yeah. It's a good thing that people are talking about that. And I hope that this is that seed in their mind that this is all theft. You know, like we talk about planting that seed in someone's mind and then it grows into a plant. And I hope that that's what this situation is. The problem would be if this is all it grows into, which is just, we just shouldn't give money to Somalians. We can steal your money and give it to like other people and all that. But the root cause of the problem is that the Somalis are getting this money.
Somebody in the group said we should nuke Somalia.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
There you go.
Just
wipe them out.
This is why not everyone can be president.
Yep.
Oh, man.
No, that's
we don't even need a declaration of war for that, apparently. Just like we take out them boats.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, the last thing for number 2, and my God, we got to move on. Stephen Miller posted out, not the guy with the band. This is the guy who works in the Trump administration. He says, what if I told you our national debt is the tab for the mass looting of the American economy and the mass theft of the American dream?
Well, no shit.
Yeah.
Stephen. Duh.
Yes.
This is why libertarians are right.
You know how many times he's gone off on libertarians? And that's the super dumb part about this. What he's talking about is the fraud. Like, this is all in the context of the Minnesota fraud scandal. And that's why this post actually just burns my biscuits. Because that is a completely correct post. Totally correct, except for he's talking about the fraud occurring in Minneapolis or the money that's going to immigrants and things like that. But it is correct that our national debt is, in fact, the tab for the mass looting of the American. It's quite literally the fact that is the tab for the mass looting of the American economy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the fact. But you can't.
The government that you work for has stolen it for years.
It is always the case. That is always the case. The only thing that has changed here is that people think there's a good time to take money from people and give it to other people. And then eventually there's a straw that broke the Somali camel's back. And then it's a bad time to take money from people. And if all we get out of this is they decide not to do that thing right there, but then all the other stuff is fine. You're not going to even see it register. America the downfall will still happen on the same date and the same hour. Nothing will change. So
just a different group is going to get rich in between.
Or they'll just find better ways of stealing it. These programs have to stop. Why are we paying $20,000 per child for daycare in Minnesota? You think the federal government can figure out how many hours a day each kid is actually going there? Do they actually go there every day? Because a lot of daycares, you just kind of pay for the hours or the days that you take your kid over there. And I know you can sign up. They got subscription daycares, stuff like that. But like they're just going to give you a flat amount. And what if the kid goes there like once a month?
By the way, I took Parker to.
You think they're going to check every single daycare in every single city, in every single state? It's not going to happen. This kind of stuff cannot be managed.
By the way, I took Parker to like
really, guys,
one of the most expensive daycares in all of Nashville because of him being autistic. It's called High Hopes. A great place, by the way. And it cost me, it was monthly. It cost me $1,400 a month. Now that's really expensive. That turns out to only be $16,800 though.
Wow.
For one kid. It was still less than what they're paying per child at the Minnesota daycares.
I've not seen enough people mention that even if these kids do exist and they are going to the daycares, why the absolute F are we paying that much per kid for these daycares? That's nuts.
It's
and
crazy.
As someone said in the group earlier, that's why daycare costs are so high. It might have been said as a joke, but that I hope it wasn't a joke because that's true. When the government's putting all this money towards daycares, it raises the price floor of the whole thing. So it's like,
and the price floor,
both of them. Number
price
3,
floor and the price floor.
It's the first show of the year, Charlie. It's been a while.
All right, number 3.
Number 3, California is working on a wealth tax right now. It's a one-time wealth tax, so don't get too worked up. You don't have
This
to.
is a one-time tax that would call for California residents worth more than $1 billion to be taxed the equivalent of 5% of their assets due in 2027, payments spread out over 5 years. It is retroactive. It would apply to state residents as of January 1st, 2026, which is just days away. It's also important to note the tax proposal not officially on the November 2026 ballot. It might not wind up there at all, but it is causing a public battle on whether or not this will simply kill innovation and cause a talent exodus.
Yeah,
it will.
Some of the facts they're putting out here, I read the whole bill last night. It's like 32 pages, something like that. That's actually what took up most of my dumb bleep prep time last night. It's like I got to read this whole thing, see what's going on. It says a one-time 5% tax on the total wealth of each billionaire. Okay, that's true. Which camera can I put there? There we go. Put the full screen there. Due in 2027 and spread over 5 years. Now, that's not true. Rokana has been told, well, it's only 1% per year and you spread over 5 years. No, if you don't pay it all in full, you can do the 1% per year plus 7.5% interest rate on the remaining balance each year. So, yeah, that's how that works. Estimated 200 people will pay. Not on the ballot, needs more signatures, and it's retroactive. She did mention that. This is not even on the ballot yet. Hasn't even been voted on yet. Even if it gets on the ballot, it wouldn't be voted on until later next year. But it's going to be retroactive back to January 1st of 2026, back to yesterday. I don't even know if that's constitutional, tell you the truth. If you can retroactively apply a tax to the beginning of the year that you're almost at the end of right now. Like, that's ridiculous. And it's all written into the law that if you're a resident in California on January 1st, doesn't matter if you move, nothing like that, you're in.
I'd be like, come after me.
Yeah. That's what
Come
they
after
need.
me.
That's what they need to do for sure. So as you can imagine, a bunch of dumb things have been said. Rokana said, Peter Thiel is leaving California if we pass a 1% tax on billionaires for 5 years to pay for health care for the working class facing steep Medicaid cuts. I echo what FDR said with sarcasm of economic royalists when they threatened to leave. Quote, I will miss them very much. Now, that is a really stupid thing to say because if a bunch of these people leave, California is going to be in a way worse spot than it is currently.
Yeah.
It's a literal thing that can happen, and in fact did happen with a few people, and we don't know for sure how many of these people ended up getting out of town before January 1st. Peter Thiel did open an office in Miami for his investment firm. So we do know that. A lot of these people are going to get caught on this specific tax. And, they might take the loss on that. But if you're a billionaire there, you really going to stay? You're really going to stick around if they actually pass this and that it actually goes through?
No, you're not.
Just in case they decide to willy-nilly do it again to you? No, you're going to get out of there. You're absolutely going to get out of there. So they might collect it this time. Maybe the one time. It's going to go towards good things, though, Charlie. We got to know that. Bernie Sanders says, yes, we need a wealth tax on billionaires. Talking about this, just in case you're wondering, he talks about wealth inequality a lot in this post. I want to go to some of the parts of this actual law, the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act, which, of course, they're going to be taxing this money. They're going to put it in a lockbox, and then they're going to use it for people's healthcare expenses, for Medi-Cal mainly, because illegal immigrants, they keep relocating over there to California and their budget's getting blown up. So they got to tax these billionaires. So they go through all the reasons that they're going to take this money. The applicable individual means for the 2026 tax year, any individual who is a resident of the state. They cite a study in this law. I just had to point out, according to economic analysis and including all taxes at all levels of government, billionaires pay 24% of their income in taxes, while the average taxpayer pays 30%. This means the average taxpayer pays a 25% larger share of their economic income, taking into account all state and federal taxes. What does that not take into account, Charlie? All the transfer payments back to those people that actually comes from the taxes that come from those billionaires.
Oh, because this is from Zuckman.
Because it's from Emmanuel.
This is from the group that decided to just eliminate the people who pay no taxes or get money back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's great research.
Because when you decide to look at how much money or what percentage of their income are people paying in, what you should not take into account is the fact that they literally receive more money back from the government than they're paying in. So you can just tell people that they're paying in a larger percentage of their income than people who are billionaires. But of course, billionaires do have a higher income tax rate. Of course, what they're taking then is the capital gains rate. They're talking about all the income that they take in and the effective tax rate. And then they ignore the fact that a bunch of that money was then given to the people at the bottom that they're talking about. And they just wipe that from the study. That was one annoying fact that they put in here. This talks many times about excessive accumulations of wealth in the law. I would need them to define what excessive is, but it was not defined.
Well, billion, Nate.
I guess, yeah. Over $1 billion.
Nobody needs $1 billion.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's great. So the rules here for how they're going to value your assets, and as you guys know, we won't have time to go fully in today if it's your first time listening, most of the wealth for these people is held in the stock market. There's publicly traded companies and some privately held companies as well. And so this part on how they're going to value stuff, the fair market value of each asset owned by a taxpayer is the price at which the asset would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller, neither being under any compulsion to buy or sell.
That's not the worst part.
What's the worst part?
The worst part of this is that it's going to be the fair market value of the asset is the price at which the item or a comparable item will be sold at retail. The fair market value of an asset shall not be the price that a forced sale of the property would produce, even though we're basically forcing.
Yes.
So we're forcing it, but you can't take the price of what the forced sale would be.
And that is why I highlighted this section. Exactly why I highlighted this section. Most of these people hold their wealth in the stock market, and they're not going to be, if you're worth $300 billion and they decide that they're going to tax away $15 billion from you, many of these people are not going to have $15 billion in the bank account. So they have to go and sell shares of their company to try and raise the $15 billion. It's funny, they're actually going to pay taxes on what they sell as well when they do that. That is a forced sale. That is them dumping shares onto the market. It says up here that it is the value of the asset would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller, while actually forcing people to sell things because they do not have that much cash on hand. But you cannot count that as the value of the asset if it forces the price down. They're going to take a snapshot one day. Here's what it's worth. And even if in the process of selling, the stock of your company goes down 20%, they're still going to take it based off of the screenshot beforehand, even though they forced you to sell.
I'm actually surprised they didn't put it in here that they'll say that says January 1st, the value of the asset on January 1st, 2026, or the day that this passes, whichever is greater.
Yeah, whichever is greater. Yeah, that'd be good. It could be in there somewhere. I might have missed it. Let me see. The asset's market trading value on the valuation date. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. What else did I have in here? So that's really dumb. And that's the thing, when I think about this, because it's in California and it's not here, and also I'm not a billionaire, at times I'm like, well, this could be fun to watch, from a distance. I don't want it to happen because even though I'm not a billionaire, I believe everyone has the right to their own freaking property. It should not be taken from you by force from the government. But sometimes I'm like, this is going to go terribly wrong. A bunch of people are going to leave because of it. They're going to value these assets, and the value of the assets is going to tank from the day that they grab the value of the assets. And I sort of want the data on that. Tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I think it could be very helpful to our argument to see this play out. And if we're going to see it play out somewhere, it might as well be California with a bunch of people who voted in these people in the first place. So that's part of my thoughts on that, although I still can't support it. Let me see here. Chamath Palihapitiya. Heard someone else pronounce it earlier.
Nice. I just call him Chamath.
Chamath. People I know with a collective net worth of $500 billion scrambled and left California for good yesterday. They took no risk because of the proposed asset seizure tax. Without these people, the California budget deficit will only get bigger. This hole gets filled in one of two ways: more borrowing from the bond market, who is purely financial and unforgiving, or more taxes on everyone else. Meanwhile, waste, fraud, and abuse runs rampant from the hundreds of billions in revenues the state already collects. And isn't that something that they should be talking about? Like, you really think California has a revenue problem?
Right.
Is that their issue? That they got to risk forcing all these people out of their state, which absolutely will happen. They, like I said,
doesn't California have like the third largest economy in the world?
I think it's fifth.
Fifth?
Fourth or fifth.
And they have a revenue problem?
Yeah, they don't have a revenue problem.
Their GDP is the fifth largest in the entire world?
Take the high-speed rail thing. Like, they've spent
$92 billion?
The total budget has gone up over $100 billion. It's not all been spent yet. I think they've actually spent $14-15 billion so far. Of course, there's no completed rail done. This is a plan that started back in 2008.
But Nate, this
9.
provided 10,000 union worker jobs.
You saw that, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's like,
what are you going to take these
it's
people's jobs
it's
away?
It's like Milton Friedman's story with the spoon. Like, why don't you just give them all spoons? Like, it doesn't matter what they're producing or creating. Let's just keep them here working, digging holes in the ground. Wouldn't that be better? And that's basically what they're doing. They just got union jobs, people getting paid out, nothing getting done. There's no value to the people who are paying into it because they haven't completed the product.
Well, of the 10,000 workers, there's 9,000 supervisors.
Yeah.
They got about 1,000 workers, 9,000 supervisors.
All right, let's make fun of reparations real quick for number 4. It's a good thing we didn't have 10 things in this episode. Wow. San Francisco quietly rolls out a $5 million per person reparations for black residents while on a $1 billion deficit. Now, it's not as bad as you think, Charlie. They did officially approve this, but they allocated $0 to it, which is hilarious, actually, because they're really pumped that this happened and that they created this fund.
But they didn't fund it.
Basically, this is all pomp and circumstance around the opening of a bank account. I've opened the bank account and this is what it's for.
Yeah.
There's no money in the bank account.
This is great.
So we can either make fun of that or we can make fun of reparations in general, but this...
Or both.
Yeah, or both. Mm-hmm. The effort to provide reparations to black San Franciscans in a state that didn't have slavery is another step closer to becoming a reality after the Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to establish the Reparations Fund at its Tuesday meeting. The passage of this ordinance moves San Francisco from apology to action. And the action is they walked down to San Francisco First State Bank. They stepped over the homeless people who were shooting up with needles, sitting there in the corner by the door. They presented their paperwork and they opened the bank account.
This is great.
They did not put any money in the bank account, but that is the action that they have taken thus far. The resolution simply creates the fund, but no money has been allocated to it. Quote, passing the reparations fund will now allow for individuals, foundations, businesses, and communities to donate their own resources towards funding recommendations developed by the African American Reparations Advisory Committee, or the ARAC, here in San Francisco. Now, this...
No, that's AARAC. Hey, come on. How do you mispronounce that?
That's good, man.
AARAC.
That's good. AARAC. So, just to be clear, they just to be clear, they went down and they started the bank account for AARAC. All right. That's great. It's his first bank account. Okay. And their intention is to set up this fund that private individuals can donate to. And then guys, they set up a nonprofit is what they did. They're calling it the San Francisco Reparations Fund. This is essentially, they spent years doing AARAC's committees trying to argue over how much money people should get. And they lied about it being $5 million a piece because that'll never happen. And now they've officially set up a donation, a GoFundMe.
By the way,
for
this
reparations.
is the best way to do it.
Absolutely, it is.
This is great.
Sure.
You know, and you know, all the companies that don't donate, they'll be churlish and insubordinate if they don't donate to the AARAC fund.
Just to be clear,
if you believe in this, okay, if you believe that a state that never had slavery, and where black people live, that they deserve reparations for the harm that your ancestors caused, you churlish white people, then it's your obligation and personal responsibility to donate or find a way to pay back those reparations that you feel are needed.
Mm-hmm.
Fine with me.
And the problem is, of course, the plan for the future is for the government to vote to allocate money to this fund.
Of course.
As well.
That's the problem.
That is the main issue. The entire idea is stupid. It will be people who never had slaves having to pay money to people who were never slaves. That is really dumb in a state that didn't have slavery. There's so many dumb things about this.
Well, apparently they had a bunch of racist policies, Nate.
Yes.
When they displaced the 20,000 black residents from the Fillmore district in favor of redevelopment.
And that and that is true. That is true that those things happen, but they formally apologized. Don't forget. The problem is who owes those people that money back? Like, it's their government ain't got no money, man. You know, they just need to get a better government if they want it, or just not one. That's the best government. Let's move to number 5. Zoran Mamdani, who said in his inauguration speech, this clip that's going around, we will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. That's really great. That's really great stuff. Let me get that clip pulled up for you.
God, this just reminds me of that Homath video I sent you yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming to the feminist propagandizement of America, which is, you know, the government becomes the family unit. And we use government to nurture.
Oh, they're not taking care of babies anymore.
People.
So you got to turn everyone into a baby.
Everything
that they can take care of.
Yeah,
it's just
little baby spoons.
It's in their nature.
These have existed as distinct from one another. We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
Yeah.
I want to take a factual approach to this real quick, which, by the way, Bob Murphy had a really great response to this. He's great. He's hilarious. He said, "We've tried decades of laissez-faire in New York City. Time to give government a chance."
That's been New York's problem.
It's the problem.
Yeah.
They just listen too hard.
By the way, okay, all of this was said, but then did you see Mamdani's first two, like, executive orders?
They one of them had to do with regulations for building, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He made a totally capitalist move.
No, I mean, he's actually done a couple. He's had a couple good things where he's talked about decreasing regulations, where he does recognize that the government itself
Literally
has slowed things down.
Moving red tape for making it easier to build. Like, okay, fine. Say what you want if you're going to act like a capitalist when you're in there.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. This is kind of a white pill. Maybe he's pulling one over on him. Maybe we need to give this guy a chance.
No, I don't think he is. I think he's trying to increase
Yeah, see, there I am with my hope and optimism.
No, he's just trying to increase the efficiency of the state.
I was trying to get back to the old Charlie in 2026 and be hopeful and optimistic.
You can do that if you want. You started 2025 being pretty hopeful and optimistic. You see how that turned out? So
I think towards the end it worked out in my favor.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
We'll see.
We'll see beginning of February how that's going. You know what? It's going to be great regardless. I just have an issue with the rugged individual thing. I'll take a factual approach. We don't have time to talk about collectivism and all that and how he's going to bring everyone together, which of course has always been the case in all of these big collectivist societies that you guys can think of. This is a city whose residents receive somewhere between 13 and 20 billion dollars in welfare payments every single year through various different programs, SNAP, homelessness stuff, or housing subsidies, whatever it is, the TANF stuff. There's all sorts of subsidies that go to these welfare payments that go to the residents of the city. And I wouldn't exactly call that rugged individualism. I just would not call it that at all. I'm not sure what they mean by that. They've got the highest population of any city in the U.S. You can say they got the most welfare dollars being spent. And they got a lot of population. But you're talking like 1 million people who are receiving some kind of welfare payments already. I just wouldn't call that rugged individualism, man. I did bring up a few things like how much. And by the way, what the heck is the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene?
I don't know.
You got to clean your. Is that where you put bleach in your brain? Is that what that is?
What is mental hygiene?
I'm not sure. And so, does anyone know what that is?
You got to brush that brain.
Brush your brain, cleanse your brain.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Charlie. I'm your mental hygienist.
Yeah.
I'm here to remove the plaque from your brain. The problem is we have a buildup of plaque here.
I'm feeling pretty hopeful right now as the last couple stories we talk about are just excited about the future right now because we sit here safely in the middle of the country where things are slightly less retarded than they are in the extreme ends of the country.
New York and California.
Yeah. And some retarded, but they're less retarded.
We just sit here in one of the flyover states.
Yes. And so we're here and, I got to deal with my property taxes going up, stuff like that. I spend money on a bunch of dumb stuff. I still cannot believe that my property taxes went up for the explicit purpose of paying for trash service for people in Nashville.
Do you think that's what it is?
And I can't even get trash service. They don't service my area, but my area pays for the trash service. Literally.
You're not so blind as to believe that that's what it's for.
If they're telling me that the extra charge is for trash, there damn well better be a trash can brought to my house that they're going to come and unload every week. What the hell?
That's not what it's for. It's for the new stadium going up.
Yes, it is for the
right
stadium.
Next to the old stadium.
That thing is so close to the interstate.
You're subsidizing.
I drive straight through that thing sometime.
You're subsidizing the Titans here.
All right, last thing we have, and we gotta go.
You had 6?
I got 6 things.
I thought we only had 5.
I don't even know if they're getting put in the group. Maybe Costco's been taking care of that for us. It's Trump, and this is a little bit ago. When was this that this actually happened? It was before Christmas. Yeah, it was after the Epstein thing, and I just had to play this. I just have to. This is them asking him about the pictures coming out, and they end up talking about Bill Clinton.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
He has words for Bill Clinton, and then he has words for the evil Thomas Massey.
Okay.
So I just got to play it.
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I don't like I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along.
We raped kids together.
I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what
of course
the
I like
Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So
you should have seen us high-fiving as we were Eiffel Towering this 14-year-old girl.
Either friendly or not friendly, but they, you know, he was around. He was all over.
He said, "I hate to see stuff coming out about
the head of
Clinton."
Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his, but everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. This is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest.
He gets like very factual. I just had to point out, I threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. As a person who was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. That's a great explanation of exactly what happened. And then he's like, "This is Mar-a-Lago.
We're here.
We're at Mar-a-Lago right now.
Yeah.
You guys see Jeffrey Epstein? Told you.
Yeah.
Place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida, and everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But
Bubba,
you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein many years ago, and they're highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people on there that are very strange in terms of leadership, but Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and that he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has.
God. Word salad.
Yeah, there's a lot of words happening. All right, I got to go, so let's get the voting going. Number one was the Iran stuff. Trump's post about that. Mark Levin stuff, woke right stuff. The real woke right, by the way. Not who the woke right calls the woke right as projection. Number two, just Minnesota fraud stuff. Number three, we had the California wealth tax. Number four, reparations in San Francisco. Number five, rugged individualism and warm collectivism. Number six, Bill, it's just, do you have to get up there and say nice things about Bill Clinton?
Is that not siding with the Democrats?
It's just,
I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like Trump is accusing Massey of siding with the Democrats. He gets up there and calls pretty widely accepted, like this pedo rapist Bill Clinton, a good guy. Is that necessary to even do that? Like, what if you just felt that internally and you didn't say it out loud to a bunch of people, where you got to defend Bill Clinton, say you hate to see these pictures coming out of Bill Clinton, Bubba, and then call Massey a loser and a lowlife.
Bill Clinton's a friend of mine.
It's just, and maybe Clinton's got dirt on him, and he said, "Hey, Trump, I need you to get up there, say some nice things, buddy." Maybe that happened. I don't know. Or maybe he's scared. Clintons, they got a way of getting people close to them to kill themselves. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's worried about that. And you got to leave all your options open. So as we look through the votes right now,
how does MAGA defend this? I don't understand.
It's just
I need to know. We have some MAGA people in the group, so I need to know what's the defense. I'm all ears.
I don't know if there is a defense that I've seen. Maybe they have one. I think it's more of an ignoring stuff like this. Or just thinking like it's a 4 or 5D chess move, part of the plan. It just seems unnecessary to me. You hate Massey. We know that. You got to go up there and say nice stuff about Clinton. That's weird. I guess it's a reporter's question. It's pretty odd. We didn't even bring, this is the first dumb bleep since the Epstein stuff was released, kind of. And apparently we're still waiting on tens of millions of documents, I guess. I don't know what's happening. Trump said the whole DOJ is working overtime, putting those black...
All right, get your votes in.
Transparent black boxes over stuff. Get your votes in,
because Nate has to go.
Yeah, I got to go. I actually need to leave here in 4 minutes.
Meet his wife. So get your votes in. While you're voting, I'm going to tell you to sign up to be part of Fed Haters Club and make 2026 the year that you can vote. We had a good 2025, 46 dumbs that went towards Dumb Bleep of the Year. We just declared the winner a couple days ago, so go back and listen to that. If you want to vote this year, 2026, go to joingml.com or godhatesfeds.com. There's a button there you can click that says Join GML. Pick up some merchandise while you're at it. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show. And, of course, the free ways that you can support in 2026 is simply sharing, liking, commenting, interacting on social media, all sorts of things.
Comment.
To make, if you believe in what we're saying, then to make Good Morning Liberty great again.
Yeah.
Then do those things.
You want to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the Minnesota fraud responses of all kinds.
This has a chance for Dumb Bleep of the Year.
Honestly, I think we're going to have to break that into sections. I don't have time to do it today, but I was already thinking if this wins, we had a lot of stuff. We got people on the right that are like explicitly lying and saying they're lying. Or we got people like Destiny and Hassan saying their dumb stuff. We got CBS saying their dumb stuff. We got the people at the daycares saying like, oh yeah, we're only open 2 to 10. Or yeah, someone broke in and stole the documents out of the wall. That's ridiculous. What is that? Was there a filing cabinet there? That, they always send you like a screw to put in the wall with a little, thing attached to it so it doesn't fall over on a child. Is that what was in there? And they just put such a big anchor on it and just ripped out the wall?
Here's what's so funny is the fact that they like came up with this and they're like, oh yeah, that's good. Go to the media with that. Go to the media with the stolen documents.
Yeah. And perfect. People on the left are like, see how dangerous right-wing people are making it for these poor Somalis.
Now these places are getting broken into and everything's getting stolen.
What's the unemployment rate for the women in the Somali community? They really need that many daycares also?
I don't know.
I'm just saying there's something smells off. And never mind. All right, we got to go.
All right, if you enjoyed it, do all the things I said or don't. Welcome to a new year. We're excited to I don't know, share dumb stuff with you. I think we're going to do a lot more of that.
I just
because it's funny. So
he said, "We're so happy you chose us. Let me grab a hammer and get the enrollment paperwork for you." All right, sorry.
To get it out of the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. All right. Like I said, do all those things, share it around. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you do those things, we'll be back again on Monday. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.